So in terms of soloing, when you're perhaps improvising, because I know you do quite a lot of sort of vocal improvisation in certain styles that you do, how do you prepare for soloing?
Soloing itself, lots of practice, lots of trying things out in different ways, knowing your accompanist really, really well so that they know what you're going to do and they know how you kind of drop or breathe, because whatever you do, you'll have the things that you do in the way that Frank has his way and Ella has her way, and it's different, they're different, they rely on different sort of things, and playing around with it. I mean, I'm always saying this to my students, it doesn't matter, you don't have to get it right when you're rehearsing, just play with it, just make something up, just let go of, just follow a line, just play about. Don't think you're kind of like writing something that's got to work. Record it as you do it and just see which bits you like and which bits you don't. And then I tend to sort of do a mixture between what I know works and then freestyling a bit. And I always have the bit of me that performs, and quite often I have the bit of me that's watching myself perform as well, just going like a witness. I've got quite a strong witness, which can be a bad thing, but mostly it's a good thing. That will go, oh yeah, that was interesting, remember that, or oh, next time round when you do that, just see, it's like a sort of an awareness. It isn't always there, but...
So is that awareness there if you were singing a classical piece or a Baroque piece or something like that? Yeah, classically it's there much more than if I'm sort of doing jazz. So how does that work then when you're doing something like a classical piece, because presumably you want it to be pretty consistent and accurate and the same every time.
Yeah.
Well, not exactly the same, but yeah.
The demands on you to be technically excellent on every note are much stronger if you're doing classical music.
So how does the awareness work there then? What's going through your mind?
It makes me, I'll think things like, breathe low, put a little bit of tilt in, that note there always needs, make sure that you've, I'll have known from my practice what are the things to watch or the things to just, or take that little extra breath there to get you through into the end of that line. So it's things that I've done over and over and over and over again, so it becomes quite automatic. But I never freestyle a classical piece. I never I know exactly how I'm going to breathe, and I always breathe there, even if I don't need to. I know exactly how I'm going to place that vowel on that note, and I do it the same every time. And I don't do that when I'm freestyling. Like folk singing, I've just got into singing folk songs. I'm recording folk songs with Youth who's a producer in London, he works with everybody really. He's worked with everyone, Paul McCartney and everything, and he works quite differently to me, and it's a very interesting musical clash, because I really like to have worked a lot on something and have got everything right. I'm quite anal about detail. I want to drop notes in if they're wrong, and he's like, he doesn't do any of that. He's a pop musician. He's just like, he likes the feel of it. And I'll go, yeah, but that's a great feel, but that's not technically all right for me. And, we do fairly often come to blows about that. Yeah. He's very kind of, sounds great. And I was like, how can you say that sounds great? It sounds like that note there was just awful, and all of that kind of thing. So, yeah.
But I suppose that's so you put yourself into somebody else's hands, and that's it. It's part of the creative process, isn't it? If you're a team. Yeah, and
he's playing the bass, and he just freestyles any old thing on it, and just doesn't. He doesn't have any of that critical function going on really in that way, like I do, or any other classical musician I know that does.
Which can be liberating, and it can create some musical disasters as well.
Technique is the refuge of the insecure. And I say that technique is the foundation for mastery. And so we come at it from these completely opposite ends and clash ferociously about it.
Can you think of any top tips that you would give somebody who's perhaps nervous about singing? What advice would you give them? The top sort of 2 tips or 1 tip, if that's...
Learn it again, learn it until you cannot go wrong. That's what somebody said to me once. Learn it until you can't go wrong, not learn it until you can do it right.
Yeah, there's no... Then you can start to understand the music, I think, can't you? And then you start to live the music rather than...
Yeah, once you can let go of thinking what's the next word and what's the next note, you go into another level of performance. It's just another level. I mean, I know because I've kind of busked, if you like, gigs where I've maybe had 3-4 rehearsals and I'm stuck on the notes, and it's great. It will sound great. I'll be able to do it. I mean, I could probably do it with no rehearsal. Actually, most. I mean, I'm a really good sight reader, so if you stuck, say, a piece of Tallis in front of me and said sing that, I'd be able to do it. But that's not performing. No. That's just singing the notes. I'd be able to do that, but there's a magic, another level of that when you're drawing on something. When you're open to sort of I know it sounds like cosmoid bollocks, but it's true. You open yourself to another sort of state of being, and it's that state is like the difference between sitting down and being quiet or sitting down and meditating. It's an active state of quietness rather than a passive state of quietness, and there's a sort of, in performing, it's exactly the same. When you go into the transcendent place where you open yourself to something else, I'm absolutely sure you would be able to see this in brain chemistry, like the parietal lobes go out of sync when you meditate, and that's why you get the feeling of timeless and space, and the frontal cortex tends to shut down. So when you perform, I would imagine that the same sort of thing is happening, that there's something in the frontal cortex shuts down, and that enables the listeners to get that feeling that they might describe of transported.
Because I suppose it also means that you can get some feedback from the audience, because they're the other variable in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're so focused on
that's right, notes,
trying to remember what the hell the notes were, then you're never going to get anything back from the audience. They're never going to feel that interaction.
No, you've got to. There is that as well. There's like, for me, there's this sort of focus this way, which is like
going upwards,
heavenward, kind of that. But there's also the out, the lateral communication, and that is never really a problem for me. That feeling of trying to connect with the audience, because I think that I just don't have nerves in that direction at all. I always feel very warm towards and open towards a crowd of people, and kind of very human about it. It doesn't feel, I don't know. John Diamond wrote a really interesting book about it, and he was talking about he did some experiments with kinesiology and recordings, and he measured people's kinesiology response, muscle testing. This was like back in the 70s, and he measured that people and different recordings, and what was the difference in the conductors? What were they doing that was different in a very energised performance? And he found that there was something about the way that you or the audience was breathing at one with the conductor's breath. And that's quite a mystical sort of thing. And I sort of know what he's talking about that thing about a kind of feeling of natural pace that you do when you open yourself to being one with the audience, so that you're all going that way rather than, hello, it's about me and it's about you. I never see that as in an audience at all. I never get that feeling of like, it's me and you're looking at me. I always think we're going that way. It's us together. Otherwise,
there's no point in having a live performance, is there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not very ego-y about performance. I don't even need to be seen when I perform. It's not important to me, being seen, not being seen, whatever. It's like, come on, let's all go this way. And consequently, I feel less nervous.
For me, I think sometimes if I'm performing and I don't feel I have a purpose, why am I doing this? And then I have a problem, and I have the nerves. But if I know why I'm doing it and what it means to me, and what it means to other people, then I don't get nervous. I feel excitement.
Yeah.
And then I think the only worry I have is that I don't communicate that as well as I want to.
Yeah.
And then that's a different fear.
I don't see myself as an entertainer. I'm not interested in the business of entertainment. I'm not. It just doesn't interest me. It's to me that's about satisfying your own ego, and then of course you can fail because you're setting yourself up to be the great person. And I'm not really interested in that as a medium for myself. I know that it is part of performing, and I know that there are people that do that, and it becomes a necessary part of some kinds of performance, I feel, for Lady Gaga and Madonna to set themselves up as these kind of big egos in order that you receive that adulation. I think it forms something quite powerful, and it's definitely part of our human instinct to do that, but it's not what I'm interested in as a performer at all.
Maybe there's a real connection between ego and nerves.
I would feel so. I mean, if you set yourself up above everyone else, they are always the first ones to want to bring you down.
Yeah.
The critics say, you failed. That's when you get that kind of. But I'm not interested in that.
And if you're doing what you believe in, then.
And it's interesting because I think the performers that I admire don't do that either. Andras Schiff, very humble performer. Barenboim, in a way, has gone beyond, look at me. He's like, look at this. Come on, what can we do with this? Look at this. And he puts the music first. And, I think the people who I really admire don't do that look at me stuff. Although I don't think it's invalid, it's just not of any interest to me now at this time in my life. Would have been when I was a teenager, but not now. Robert Plant. I met Robert Plant. He's gone way beyond that kind of look at me stuff. He's just much more in the service of the music, and his the urge to create and try new things, even if he falls flat on his face. And there are others that I've met that just have an incredible humility about them.
Because the music is first.
Yeah. So I would say, to not be nervous is number one, prepare. Do your really preparation. 9/10 of it is your preparation, and then remember why you're doing it. It's not about you. Put yourself at the service of your people, your audience. Think of that. Think of putting yourself at the service of the music. Become a servant of the music.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. So the whole reason why you would want to do this, why you would want to immerse yourself in all this, in all the music and the style and work on your technique, why would you want to do it? You've got to love it. And love is the thing that will inform your practice. You do it because ultimately you love it whether someone's going to listen to it or not. Because you have to do it. It's the Proust test. Not can you do it, but can you not do it.